pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Dear God, as we gather this evening, we thank you for the privilege that it is for us to serve this fine community that we live in. Thank you for the great people that live in it. This council asks for your strength, courage, and wisdom. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. We're going to call to order the Mooresville Town Council meeting of June 20th. Gentlemen have had a chance to read. We're going to go back just a little bit. The minutes from our Town Council / Planning Commission joint meeting on May 23rd. Last week we did not have the quorum members here, so we were not able to vote on that. I need a motion to either approve or amend the minutes from that meeting.
Motion to approve the minutes of the joint council meeting.
Motion been made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
Abstain. Greg Shane, 301. Now I need a motion to approve the minutes from our last meeting. I need a motion to either approve or amend the minutes.
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained. Josh Gregg, 301. Under unfinished business, we have the insurance. I know that at our last meeting, we did go ahead and allow our insurance to renew with the understanding that we had more questions. Brian, I think you were given kind of some duties and tasks, and you're up.
Gentlemen, Diane, thank you very much for your time again today and for your consideration in this. I did go back to Travelers and we talked through a $5,000 deductible, and I also was able to convince them to trim some off of the premium with that, keeping that $84.6 million blanket. So when we come back, we do see a reduction in that premium that I initially offered to you. Before looking at the cyber, you'll see it's $325,985, which is about $9,000 less than what was on that line 2 weeks ago. The cowbell premium then, which is for the cyber insurance, which offers a much different limits than what you have on the selected policy, is $16,622. I certainly want you to consider that $84.6 million blanket reflects all of the inflation that we've seen in the last 2 years above the $56 million that was on that asset report. We have seen quite a bit of that. So I'd like you to consider that. The other thing I'd like you to consider is the timing of this process. One of the things that Morgan Insurance Group does is that we would sit with you every year, at least 3, if not 4 months ahead of the renewal date. We would go through those asset lists with you at that point. We would make sure that everything was there so that we could go to the insurance company and have all of this ready for you at least a month in advance of the renewal. That's the process that I want you to consider being able to bring to the council, so that you have full information ahead of the renewal so you can make full and good decisions. What questions can I answer for you?
What page are your deductibles on?
The deductibles, you're going to look for the property coverage premium summary, which is page 8. That shows, no, that's not where the property limit is. Apologize, that was It is 5,000, the property. For all other property, the earthquake was still $50,000. That deductible did not come down, but the deductible for all of the other property was lowered to $5,000. Except of course on the business auto, where it is at that $1,000 level, which is where I had showed you that quote previously. Deductibles by earthquake, business income, any other covered loss, that is on page 14. You see the $50,000 for the earthquake, and then the $5,000 for any other covered loss.
Could you talk about how you arrived at your limit?
Yes, sir.
Total limit?
So when I first got the asset list from Diana, I took the asset list and I compared it to what you currently have with your insurance. I compared it to the county GIS to make sure that everything was there. So that when I sent it away to quote, it had all of the assets that you own, it had all of the properties that you own, so that everything was scheduled and on the schedule. I know that Travelers sends everything through Marshall and Swift, which is a national rating company. They rate everything by the 9-digit zip code as opposed to the 5-digit zip code. I can't do math, evidently, in my head. So, but they do it by the full zip code, so that they're able to hone it down to the smaller area. That way they're able to really decide how much coverage you need as an overall. When we talk about the blanket, every building under this has guaranteed replacement costs up to the limit. So any of these buildings that are destroyed, as long as you have enough limit, it will guarantee replace that building. Where you come into a problem when you look at that limit is if you would have multiple buildings get damaged at the same time. I.e. the tornado. It did damage to multiple buildings as you're going along. And, that finger of God where it hit one building and then the next. If you would have a tornado that would come in and destroy this building and part of the sewer department or another building, you have to ask yourself if you have enough limit at the top of that. And I don't know that 55 million is enough.
But that was my question. It's 84 million is what you're saying the town assets are, is that correct?
That is what Marshall and Swift says that the town would need coverage-wise in order to replace everything if it was completely destroyed. So they have taken everything to replacement cost.
And what's your definition of guaranteed replacement?
Guaranteed replacement. Any building, if it was destroyed, is going to be replaced, guaranteed. The issue is where if you have multiple buildings that are damaged and they would go above the limit that you have. So if you have a $55 million limit and you have two buildings that get damaged and go above that, you're going to hit a ceiling of $55 million. So the 84 to 85 million is 84.6 is a number that Travelers is comfortable with as far as making sure that you have enough limit if there was a total catastrophe.
Can you explain a little bit about that, your cyber countdown?
Mm-hmm. So there are some things that need to be in place before Travelers will look at your cyber. I was basing that on the application that was filled out previously that was used to get the cyber piece that you currently have on the selective. So I was able to take that information, and Travelers declined at that point. Cabell was willing to take it and go with it. $16,622 is the premium. Now with that, you get much higher limits. Most of the limits are $500,000 to $250,000 for first party coverages. So with cyber, there are two types of coverage. There's third party, which goes to cover and help anyone that is damaged by you having a cyber event. And there's first party coverages. Those coverages are there and they're meant to help you recover from anything that would happen. Ransomware is a big one that you see a lot. And it's not just large towns and large cities that are being hit by ransomware. In my research, I found a town of 7,000 that was hit with a ransomware attack. And that cost them nearly $500,000 to get back. There was 2 of 13,000, and those were both in the $700,000 range to recover from that attack. So I feel that those are limits that are warranted for the type of town and municipality that we are, with the sewer department and the personal information of so many of our town citizens.
It's my understanding that the town police station, the old location, was still on our previous policy, even though that changed title in October of 2019.
Mm-hmm.
Explain what you would do. You talked a little bit about the renewal process, but explain what you do to keep that from happening in the future, or to make sure that new assets are added properly.
Well, certainly, I would do the same thing every year that I did this year, which is go to the GIS for the county to see what properties have been sold. If you had sold a property, it would show up there. But I, of course, would sit down with Diana and I would sit down with department heads on a yearly basis to make sure that we're able to capture any of those changes that might not have been sent through to me.
Any other questions? Go away.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. You were given some duties and tasks also.
Okay. I went through and we added guaranteed replacement cost to the property limits, and we've previously had replacement cost, which the replacement cost takes you to the value that's actually you're being rated for, and that's what the premium comes from, is the 56 million. When you add the guaranteed replacement cost endorsement with selected, your coverage limit can exceed the property limit that's on the policy phase. So
Explain that again.
with guaranteed replacement cost, it can exceed the $56 million if there's a total catastrophe.
The 56 million is kind of just what Selected wants you to pay for. They'll pay for everything over that.
Because they do their own replacement cost as well, and that's what they had come up with, was the $56 million, and then I compared that to the asset schedule that Diane had given us.
And I know there were concerns about some vehicles missing. We were able to work with Diana, and those were all taken care of.
And the employment practices liability that he says was excluded under the umbrella, the $4 million additional if you were to fire somebody, that is included in the umbrella, it always has been. And on the cyber coverage, if you go to the next to the last page on there, that our sub-limits were increased from the 50,000 that we had on the initial to 100,000. And that's the maximum that Selected would go on the cyber coverage for the.
And that's just for ransomware. If there ever was a problem with leaking information for your sewer customers, like you gave the example, that's up to $1 million. So no problem there.
So your definition of guaranteed replacement is different than what?
Yes. Because there's replacement cost, which is up to the limit, and then guaranteed replacement is it's guaranteed. It's built back like kind of quality.
We have total catastrophe, which we've seen in places.
Yes.
Which is covered everything.
Yep.
Jewel, have you reviewed these new policies here with the updates or any of the policies?
No, I don't have it selected at all, and so I haven't looked at those.
These weren't provided to us to share with our town council packet that went out last Thursday.
I mean, to me, there's a really large difference between these policies. There's $30 million in limit difference for one. And I'm unclear on what, I'm getting two different definitions, guarantee replacement, and that definition matters a bunch to me.
The language that you just gave, you saying that, okay, it's 54 million, but it's guaranteed replacement. Where do we find that in here, in writing that says we will be replaced?
It's, the quote was actually 150 pages long. So I took out bits and pieces of it so that you're not overwhelmed with all the paperwork. And if you look down where the $56 million limit is, if you look down at the first location, it's got the guaranteed replacement cost. And that's on every location. That's why the premium went up.
And that's exactly what it sounds like. I mean, the limit, essentially, I don't wanna say the limit doesn't apply, but essentially it doesn't apply.
So what page are you saying where it says guaranteed replacement cost? So I know, but I wanna see it there.
It's on, if you look at the bottom, it's page 36. It's third, fourth page. Under location level and then coverage, and it's got 26 South Indiana Street. And it's got the building, guaranteed replacement cost, business personal property, guaranteed replacement cost. So that's the building and everything in it.
Did we ever figure out why the two welcome signs and the porch kinda got this?
I was
Policy?
never asked to put those on the policy, and it was my understanding that the redevelopment commission owned them. And, you still had, under this particular policy, there's still $500,000 worth of coverage for outdoor property. So if somebody would have hit one of those, you would have had up to $500,000 to repair it.
Well, those were $2 million a piece.
Well, yeah,
But now they're included in these quotes.
And you did say your cyber policy is 100,000 max.
Well, it's $1 million, but it's 100,000 for the extortion.
Is that million included in the town's overall liability, or is there separate?
That's a totally separate.
Totally separate,
Yes.
Can you repeat that? It's 100,000 of coverage and ransomware?
Well, that's
Is that what
for-
you mean by that?
Yeah, extortion, ransomware, yes, there's $100,000. The initial quote that I had given you was at 50, and then they'll bump that up to the 100,000 limit, and that's the maximum that Selective will offer. So if you wanted to go to the million, and then for data breach, there's $1 million in coverage. Yeah.
So on the old policy, it'll be all the several addresses that will be replaced.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, there's another 50 pages of those.
It shows every location.
Okay.
Well, if the council would like me to review them, I would want to take a look at the entire packets. You said there's 300 some odd pages. I'm sure some of that comes with the definitions regarding what's in here. And so I mean, that's what I would wanna take a look at to give you guys an opinion. I'm not sure if there's more in the travelers as well, with the definitions page and everything. But I would need the entire, I can't give you a full opinion on this.
Brian, I think your original had more pages than this. You had more pages.
I included in the original, several things that, weren't a part of the policy, that were more explanation about things, and those are, in that book as well, but I did not include those in this packet. I pared this down just a little bit, because I already given you the other information. And my quote is no different other than the premium and the deductible. It is the same otherwise.
And I know that you had already went back to, Dan, is that who, I don't know who quoted this on you, but you already went back to them and said, hey, can I backdate this to, and it's in this quote.
We cannot backdate at this point. At this point, you would have to cancel the current policy as of the date you cancel it, and this policy would start that day.
Okay, so we could, if the council so chooses, legal counsel wants to go through that, then if we make a decision at our next meeting, then you can make it effective then, if we choose you, and if we don't choose you, or if we do choose you, you just make the changes on the minutes. Is that correct?
The changes on the limits have already been done.
Okay. Council, do you understand that, what Joel is saying is he needs more time to, because we just got it tonight too.
Right, yeah. It's a lot to absorb.
The policy limits are so far apart, makes me nervous now.
I just can't stress enough that this needs to be brought to us at least a month in advance. We shouldn't be doing this a month later. So I don't know if you guys are meeting with department heads and the clerk or whatever, but this needs to be addressed earlier than the deadline.
What would the council like to do?
Okay, we will take a look at it a little further.
That
Make
form of
sure
motion?
Yes, I'll make a motion to have legal, view the four policies and make a recommendation.
Can you send the full policy to Diane, she'll send it to you?
Cause they're gonna have to issue it tomorrow because we're already on it and we've got a couple claims
Okay.
that I can't turn in yet.
Okay.
So we've actually we are on this now,
Oh, yeah.
this new policy.
Absolutely.
I have a motion on the floor, do I have a second?
Wait a minute, did that change the premiums and stuff too? The new policy?
This is what the total.
I mean, you said it's already been switched, but the council hasn't approved that switch.
No, it's changed from the original quote to this one, from 2 weeks ago.
Is this cheaper or more? Because the council hasn't approved the difference, right?
I think what we did is, it auto-renewed at our last, that was the due date, our last meeting. Actually, I think it was the Monday before.
Yeah.
Our last meeting, it auto-renewed then.
So what you're saying is, we would be paying the new premium.
As of now, the coverages are the same as they were last term. This quote is showing the quoted changes that we would apply if you.
Well, when she issues the renewal, it'll be issued
Right.
like this.
Right, okay.
Well, right now, we're still in the old policy.
No, when she issues the renewal, this will be the new one.
Right now.
Right now, if she had an issue, we do it.
If there was a loss today and I called and told her to issue it, it would be issued exactly like this.
So I misspoke.
So we're being billed right now at the higher premium, right?
We have not issued anything. But,
Okay, so there's a pause in when the premiums are due.
well, there'll be, once she issues this, cause we've gotta issue it because he said he couldn't backdate it, so, and then we've got a couple claims that are outstanding that I can't turn in. And then we've also got more vehicles that we need to add for the police department as well, that I can't add to the policy until the policy's actually issued, because the effective date of the vehicles is later than what the renewal date is.
So do we not have coverage on vehicles?
No.
Is there extended, like, is there a rider?
You've got coverage, everything's bound with the company,
Oh, okay.
and it's bound exactly like the quote is. And so when she issues this, then that's what the billing will come out at, and then I'll make the additional changes to the policy, because they're after that June 5th date.
I'm just a little bit confused. If a policy auto renews, then it is bound by the policy that was in place prior to the renewal date coming through. And so if we have claim, I guess what I'm getting confused about is if there are claims now that aren't being turned in, shouldn't those be covered by that auto renewal of the pre-existing insurance?
Well, it's not an automatic renewal, because the companies, we changed the company went in and did a replacement cost, reevaluated the replacement cost, and came back and said, okay, here's what the values are gonna be for the renewal. And then of course we added the signs and stuff that and changed a couple vehicles. So it doesn't actually automatically renew. I have to tell them to renew it, and it'll be renewed just like this. It's that they have to notify you in advance if they're gonna not renew it. So, or if it's going to be canceled. So that has not happened, so they can't legally do that. They would have to issue this policy, like we have it quoted here.
So I guess that is what the trigger that I'm getting at is, you know, I wasn't here at the last meeting, so I don't know what was said. But if it was said that there was an automatic renewal so that there would be coverage for that. The fact of the matter is there would only be coverage if it is selected, is chosen to move forward.
They have to.
Or they don't have, I'm trying to get to the thought process the council would have had and the information that the council would have had. Without taking action last time when the policy expired, there wasn't an automatic renewal, and the only way that any item technically will be covered from the expiration of that term till whenever a policy is decided is if they go and choose the selected, correct?
Yes, if you tell me to issue the policy.
Well, because I guess what I'm saying is, if we say we are not going to go with selective and the council chooses to go with travelers, then from the time of expiration, whether that be the Monday before the last meeting till whenever that decision is made, there is no coverage there. The coverage only binds if a decision is made to extend selective and move forward.
Well, I have the authority to bind. I'm not gonna put the town in a position where there's gonna be some legal problems. I have the authority, and my underwriter knows that, because she didn't want to issue the renewal policy until everything is exactly like we wanted it, with the different changes and stuff.
No, that's not the case. There would be coverage. I see what you're asking. Even if you did go with travelers, there would be coverage up to the cancellation date.
Yes.
Okay, and under what policy?
Under the quoted changes you have in front of you.
And I guess where I'm having the trouble then is I'm having trouble understanding why it is that we're holding off on claims then. Are you
Well,
saying
I don't
that
have a
is
policy
just
that's,
run-out?
I don't have a policy that's in effect, that's been issued.
It's not in their
It's
computer
not in their system, so you can't. I could probably call in and get them, but she's gonna, for the claims to go on, she has to issue this renewal.
I feel like we're talking around each other.
I do too.
So you're saying the only way the claims that are currently existing can be processed is if Selected issues a renewal, right?
Well, I can probably work around that with them, but the problem is it's on an occurrence, but your losses are on an occurrence basis. So this policy expired June 5th of 2023. So, and the new one is gonna start June 5th. And so she has to issue that for that policy to be enforced, to have an occurrence date after the date that the first policy expired.
So, but if a selection is made with travelers to move forward,
Will the policy be issued? Will the policy be issued? Yes.
correct?
Yeah, because I bound coverage with the company. That was an agreement between myself and the underwriter.
So we'll pay for a month of insurance, but we wouldn't buy his insurance until a month from now or next meeting. Is that correct?
You would need to buy it as of the date you cancel the other. So
Right.
that the effective dates would have to match up from when you cancel to when you start, would have to be the same date.
And I think all of that, those intricacies are gonna be in those 300-some-odd pages that I'm
So we will, if we do nothing but table it tonight, he's already done it, and issue it, and bill us for the next, June 5th till July 3rd, when we have our next meeting. If we cancel it July 3rd, or if we cancel it July 3rd, and Brian can issue July 3rd, correct?
Correct.
And if we have our meeting July 3rd, we can bind it, if we choose you can bind it and issue it that day, correct?
Correct.
And we'll wanna work through that timing as well, because we'll wanna make sure that it's truly issued on July 3rd, because July 4th.
I have binding authority as well, that if I get your blessing to bind it and I send an email to my underwriter that says, please bind coverage, the coverage is bound at that point. to
What
say-
you're saying is
That's
exactly
you're
what he's saying, right?
And then there's a process for them to go through to actually issue the policy so that it shows up in your hand. But from the minute I say, please bind this, you have coverage at that point.
So are we covered or not?
So,
No matter who you choose, you're covered right now.
that's what's.
Vehicles, property, vehicles that aren't scheduled, the 4 new vehicles that we still are comfortable rolling out.
So,
Do you think we're covered?
yeah, and that's a representation that's being made, on the record, so, yeah, but that's not the lines are, even if it's not, if you're relying upon that, so. But there is a motion on the floor, I think that, but there's no second.
Before he seconded it, he didn't second, he asked the question, are we?
Yeah, I may have gone out of order there, I don't know. But
No, that was perfect.
I just don't feel comfortable right now with this, but. There's nothing in writing, right? There's nothing in writing describing what they're saying, but you're okay with it?
I don't know, because I don't have the entire.
I mean, it'd be an old policy that I'm talking about, wouldn't it? About the bound coverage. After the expiration of the policy, that's what I'm worried about. And if we don't have vehicles that are, what if there's a wreck or something? I know he's saying it's covered, I trust, I'm not questioning your integrity, I'm just,
You're covered. On record. Yeah, probably not. I'm telling you right now, you're covered. There's no issues with that at all.
Because we haven't canceled.
Correct.
There is a motion on the floor.
well, I mean, I obviously want it reviewed. But you need both full policies to review, and that was what your motion was, correct? Okay, I'll second.
Motion made, seconded, all in favor? Great, Shane. We will move you to our meeting again. And like I said, if you can send that to him, to Diana Hill, she will send it to Jewel. Did you hear that, Larry?
I'm sorry.
If you will send that to Diane, she'll send it to Jewel.
Okay. Certainly will. I'll probably just email that to you, because it's 500 or 600 pages.
I might have problem getting an email through our fax machine. I may have to separate it into two different,
I can set up a secure share.
you can.
Next item on the agenda is the declaratory resolution for Ascension Group LLC. We had our confirmatory, or declaratory, today's confirmatory. We had our declaratory last.
So that was buffers and purpose.
So we had two for buffers and personal property.
Oh, okay,
So this is the starting point, so this one.
So this is not,
This one is not a public hearing, this is your declaratory.
this is the declaratory resolution for the Ascension. This is the, what you might call the UTS.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
And it is declaring the area revitalization area. Mike presented this at our last meeting, or they were coming before us. Shane, did you have any questions for Mike? I know that he presented last meeting. I need a motion to approve the declaratory resolution 2023-12.
Motion to approve the letter resolution number 2023-12.
Motion been made, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made, and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Great, Josh, for it. And, there we go. Next one is our confirmatory resolution, and this is our public hearing. The first one is resolution 13, and this is for the real property. This is the spec building, and this is just the improvements within the spec building. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone who would like to speak on behalf of the confirmatory resolution for Buffers USA? Need a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion to close the public hearing.
Motion been made. Do I have a second? Motion been made, seconded. All in favor? Josh Gregg, for. Now I need a motion to approve Resolution 13, 2023.
Approve resolution number 2023-13.
Motion been made, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great, Josh, for. Next item is our 2023-14, our confirmatory resolution for the personal property of Buffers USA. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone that wants to speak on behalf of or against the resolution? I need a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Motion been made, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Josh Gregg, for. Now I need a motion to approve or deny resolution 14/2023.
Motion to approve, resolution 14/2023.
Motion been made, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded, all in favor? Greg, Josh, for it. It's also the confirmatory resolution 2023-15. This is for the personal property at Packmore Process Technologies. This is the public hearing for that. Is there anyone who wants to speak on behalf or against the Packmore personal property abatement? I need a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Motion been made, do I have a second? Motion made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Josh, Greg, 4-0. Now I need a motion to either approve or deny resolution 2023-15, granting the property tax abatement on personal property for Packmore Processing.
Resolution number 2023-15.
Motion been made, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Greg, Josh, 4. Under new business, park department mower replacement.
Good evening, members of the council and the public that are listening to this report and the ones that are sitting in this room this evening. Before you, as part of your packet on Thursday, you were provided a brief description of the current infrastructure of what we're dealing with our mowers. In brief summary, our 11-foot deck John Deere 1600 is currently on a consistent breakdown and no operation times. It has now been down close to 2.5 to 3 weeks due to repairs. Those repairs are getting to the upwards of $4,000. We've been currently mowing our park system primarily with 2 6-foot deck mowers, our John Deere 1570, and then also our Kubota ZD331. So I'm coming before the council this evening after looking in consideration for future replacement for the mower. I saw that the council placed $60,000 allocated in the food and beverage fund for the purchase of a new lawnmower allocated for this year. I have since reached out to several different companies, as you foresee in your packet. At our previous park board meeting, we met and reviewed those quotes and specs. Along with staff, we reviewed the specifications of the mowers, and we're here this evening seeking your approval for mower replacement. I'd like to answer any questions that the council may have. I do have some updated numbers for the council as were confirmed later this evening, or earlier this evening before the meeting began. That may help with your decision making this evening, if you're so inclined to receive that information. So, speaking with Reynolds Farm Equipment, the replacement cost for our 11-foot deck 1600 is at the estimated cost of $74,992.92. The replacement of our 6-foot deck John Deere is at $1,575. That replacement is at a $48,007.65. They have upgraded our their zero-turn offerings for a more industrial heavy-duty model. Those two models, I do have the updated mower sheet if the council would like to see those. The one option was at the $18,355.26 The more industrial version was $26,087.68. Bringing the total for total replacement, if we were looking at replacing all three mowers, at the low price of $141,355.83. That is not what I am seeking for the council's approval this evening. After the review, we would like to move forward with actually the Grasshopper brand of mower. We believe that it has the benefits of an industrial package. It is a commercial grade mower. My staff are familiar with the operations and maintenance of the equipment. That package for 3 mowers, we're looking at 2 6-foot front deck mowers at a cost of together, singled at $21,873.95. The mid-deck mower, allowing for us to get into more of those tighter confined spaces, is the cost of $18,580.90. With the total cost being at $62,328.80. That is just $2,328.80 over what is the allocated budget line in food and beverage of $60,000. That's a lot of information, a lot of numbers that I just threw at you, so I'll give you a chance to gather any thoughts or questions.
I know we had talked, but, I don't know if anybody else was aware that you said you were going to get a trade-in value from Ted Everett. Have
Yes.
you got anything back?
Correct. I received both. I actually got trade-in value from Reynolds and purchase price also from Reynolds and Ted Everett. Ted Everett has offered a total of $7,500 for all 3 mowers for a full sell. Reynolds now has offered, and this is for the trade-in value, is the speak in accuracy for you. If we went with Reynolds for the equipment purchase, their trade-in, this is all 3 mowers that are listed, the 1600, the 1570, and the Kubota. Their trade-in value is $22,500. Their outright purchase cost is $16,000. So Reynolds has a offer for purchase of our 11-foot deck mower, 6-foot deck, a John Deere, and our 6-foot deck Kubota at an estimated outright purchase of $16,000.
Tom would not want them, or?
No, Tom Wood graciously basically said we would just sell it to Ted Everett immediately, so just deal directly with them. You will get hopefully a better price. They didn't want to be a middleman. We market as surplus.
Yeah, you'd have to take resolution to declare them surplus and then put them up for auction.
Probably do them on John Deere.
They believe we would just get a better deal working directly with Ted Everett.
I also noticed that Grasshopper was not like a loaner. If something breaks down under warranty, then we offer a loaner.
Correct. The warranty coverage from Tom Wood Outdoor Equipment is a 3-year warranty. First 2 years is parts and labor. 3rd year is parts only. They do have a loaner program if we have an extended breakdown of one of our mowers. That includes pickup and delivery. They also stock parts for the Grasshopper brand mowers that we're considering. The Reynolds, their warranty package for the 1600 and the 1575 is a 2-year limited warranty, and then a 3-year warranty on the 0-turn radius 6-foot deck mower. And they stock parts as we were fully aware. So no, the Parks Department is, seeking the approval for the purchase and sell of our current mower structures. That would be our 1600, our 1570, our Kubota, ZP 331, and allocated purchase for the 3 Grasshopper mowers, 2 72-inch front deck, diesel 900D, and the 72-inch deck, mid deck 400D series.
In the John Deere bid, there was a quote, there was other equipment. We don't need any other equipment, do we?
No, that was, I have an updated bid that only shows the mowers, if you'd like to see that. The other ones were simply replacement of, well, not replacement, but curiosity of our staff of additional implements that could attach to the 1600 and the 1570 or 75 for that was additional account.
Snow blower.
It's kind of like the wish list if we looking at what they offer. Then we have similar options as well going with the Grasshopper brand.
Have you used Grasshopper to last place? I mean, it kind of caught me off guard when they popped up on the radar.
I personally have used that on the residential side at my in-laws. We've owned and operated that for about 3 years. I think it's one of the comfiest seats I've ever sat in a lawnmower. Personally, the primary decision making was actually the overall maintenance and upkeep of the equipment. So seeking for the experience level of my staff currently, and they believe that Grasshopper offers the best all-around package for mowers that can take a punch and keep going. They are Kubota engines, diesels. And as we can see that the Kubota that we currently have was purchased in 07-08. That was the first actual year model. And that one is actually mowing better than our other 2 combined. And it's going close to, well, it's getting close to 20 years old. So and basically kind of going through those models, I believe this would be the best offering package and provides similar, if not equal cut value that the John Deere's do. The primary reason for the switch is the John Deere's are built for manicured grounds. So you're talking golf courses. Fortunately, our park system does not have fairways and greens, nice luscious ground that's been rolled. We have bumps, grooves, and hollows that we need to be in consideration. We also mow within trees and forests. So we need mowers that can keep up, and we know our engine, the Kubota, is one that's reliable, and the steel that the Grasshoppers are built out of, I believe can stick up to the standard.
What was the total on the 3 tractors?
For the Grasshopper replacement, that is $62,328.80.
And your trade and your sell price, your guaranteed sell price was $16,000.
$16,000, so that would bring the total cost after trade at $46,328.80. They also have one of the fastest turnarounds. They're talking 4 weeks for delivery. So you can even bet if we would move forward with the purchase of those that we would even be able to use them this year. And actually a few months. Trade-in value was $22,500. Their purchase price, if you're looking at replacing all 3, was $141,355.83. If if you're looking at just replacing what was first allocated, for the 60,000 was that 1,600 replacement, because it was purchased in 2014. That total cost is $74,992.92. So you're talking a 14,000, almost 15,000 over what has been budgeted, versus purchasing 3 mowers being only 2,000